talked a lot with Dr. James Pigney about diamond physicians and concierge medicine. And we've talked with other doctors about different alternatives to Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, whichever way you'd like to talk about it. But we have another person this morning we wanted to chat with about, what is the state right now of the medical community, the doctors that are out there. And she's written a wonderful piece called The Doctor's State of Independence. Her name is Dr. Elaina George. She's been with us before. She is a board-certified otolaryngologist. I think I have that right. She'll correct me in a moment if I don't. She graduated from Princeton University with a degree in biology. She received her master's degree in medical microbiology from Long Island University and received her medical degree from Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York. She is Dr. Elaina George, and she returns to the Gary Sutton Show this morning. Dr. George, great to have you back on the show. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
An honor to be with you, and an honor to read your article, The Doctor's State of Independence. I was fascinated by it, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, obviously with the Supreme Court decision just in our rearview mirror again. And you made a point of saying that right at the beginning. Everything that has happened with Obamacare since its implementation has been a good thing because we can now stop pretending that the courts or the Congress will help us. So take us into your piece here, because you're talking about really getting your profession back for doctors, and it looks, from what I'm reading here, like you feel like it's been pretty well taken away.
Oh, absolutely. Over the past 20 years, we've had an erosion of our ability to take care of our patients. The doctor-patient relationship is now dying. And the third-party insurance companies, the government, the Medicaid and Medicare regulations that keep coming. Just yesterday, I just read that the Medicare just published another tome of regulations, and now they're going to once again pay doctors to talk to patients about end-of-life decisions. And that was the thing that revved up the rationing and death panel debate. That's what started it. They took it out, and now they're trying to put it back in. And I'm done with that. I'm done with somebody telling me to be an agent for the government, to talk to them about global warming and how it affects their health. I'm not going to do it.
It was interesting. I read the same article, and I got it right in front of me, in front of the Los Angeles Times, and it said they revived this proposal to reimburse physicians for talking with their Medicare patients about how patients want to be cared for as they near death. I mean, right. Who wants to be talking about that kind of stuff? I mean, I understand there comes a point in time where, people have to make decisions, but is it your job as a doctor to have to get into that kind of thing? And they always, I guess, the proposed legislation would allow medical providers to bill Medicare for, quote-unquote, advanced care planning, should a patient want to have the discussion. They use all these nice-sounding words, and then people get around to say, well, it's a death panel. Oh, you can't say that. It's a death panel. What is advanced care planning?
That means end-of-life decision-making, whether you want to have everything done for you or whether you just want to go to a hospice and be made comfortable. And that's what it's all about. And I can guarantee you they will pay the doctor more for that visit than they will for them to do a wellness visit. I can guarantee you that's going to be. They put out these carrots, and then the sticks come up after the fact. They want us to get electronic medical records in our office, and it was, we're going to give you $14,000 tax, deduction towards doing that. And what that really ended up doing is putting patient information on a cloud that could be data mined by whatever alphabet agency you want to name. So patients now don't have privacy. They'll know whether or not you're on an antidepressant to stop smoking, but they won't know that it's to stop smoking. They'll just think you're on an antidepressant. Good luck in the future maybe getting a legal handgun or getting a government job, because that diagnosis may follow you. And I don't have control of that. Once it hits the cloud, it's gone.
We're talking with Dr. Elaina George, the author of The Doctor's State of Independence. And, of course, Medicare right now, from what I understand, covers more than 50 million, mostly older Americans. And obviously with baby boomers retiring right now and getting a little bit older as well, more are going to join those ranks. So that does become a major source of concern. But getting back to your article, you blame your profession a little bit for losing some of this control too, am I right?
Yes, I think that we were driven by fear. And I remember when I first graduated and I came out to my own medical practice, I was told that, if you don't join an insurance company, you won't get any patients. And that's what we all thought. If we don't play this game, we won't have patients to come and see us. And what started as a little slippery slope is now an avalanche of doctors now leaving the private practice because they can't afford to stay open. They can't afford to make payroll. It's not the doctor. Let me be clear on this. This is one thing I want patients and your listeners to know. It is not the doctors that are jacking up the healthcare costs. It's the hospitals. It's the pharmaceutical industry. It's everything around us. Yes, we're the face of medicine, but our power in this is relegated to basically signing off on a prescription at this point and maybe co-signing what a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner is doing. Because they're now the front line of healthcare.
You know, the idea of a profession was always that we would govern our own. And whatever profession you were in, do you still have a chance to govern your own in this profession, or are you governed by regulations, and are you governed by the government?
I think at this point, if you accept insurance, and especially if you accept Medicaid or Medicare, you are governed by the government, by regulations and mandates. That's why, you know, we did everything we're supposed to do. We started off with, okay, I'm going to take an insurance. Then it became, okay, I'll see another 20 patients a day, then another 30 patients a day. Now I have to hire a PA because I can't handle the volume. And this is all just to stay open. This is because reimbursements have dropped. Let me tell you, I trained in New York, as you said in the introduction, and I don't do 30% now of what I trained to do. I went to Sloan Kettering, New York Hospital, Lenox Hill Hospital. I trained at the top hospitals in this country. And I don't do head and neck oncology anymore. I don't do ear surgery anymore. I don't see pediatrics anymore in my practice because the reimbursements are so ridiculous that I actually have to pay to see these patients. I don't make any money. I cannot stay open. That's wrong.
So tell me, for people out there that don't understand, they say reimbursements. We're talking about Medicare, and we're talking about how it's going down there. To give people, if you can give them an example, just how bad that is right now, and what the government's reimbursing compared to the types of patients that you're taking. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people that say, I don't want to take Medicare patients because it's a total losing proposition. And so if you're in business to do a great job for people, it's a making money. I don't think anybody gives money back during that time all the time. It doesn't work well.
No, and there's no crime in making money.
No.
I think people are now being taught that if you make money, there's something wrong with you. It's about making money really the old-fashioned way, okay? You earn it,
Yep.
You provide a service, and you provide excellent care, and you should be reimbursed for what you do.
And obviously you paid a lot of money to get ready to do that, too. I mean, the amount of money, what did it cost you to go to school and,
oh my God.
and then post-school and all that kind of stuff? You ever get an estimate of that?
Oh, gosh, I'm still paying my medical school loans, okay? And I've been in practice for 15 years. It's well over $100,000, and it's now more expensive than when I went to school.
Right.
And I don't care about the money. I didn't do it to make the money. I did it because I love what I do. I'm a Hippocratic Oath believer, and that means I need to be an advocate for my patient, not an agent for the government. That is the difference. So let's talk about Medicare, for example. I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor. They took away consultation fees about 4 years ago. So if someone sees a primary care doctor, they get a certain amount that they get paid. If you see a specialist, that it was a different amount that you got paid. And the difference is when someone comes to see me and it's a consult, I have to take over care from what the primary care doctor did. I have charts to review,
right.
labs to review. It's a big deal. They're paying me now, any specialist, at the same rate that they pay a GP for a consultation. It can take an hour to do it, and I'm getting paid what it would take 15 minutes. That was part one. The second part that happened,
even though the general practice is passing it to the specific practice now to make it even easier to understand, right?
Yes, and actually the general practitioner makes more money than the specialist on an office visit. That's how topsy-turvy it's become,
wow.
Which is fine. So let's talk about procedures now, because that's what surgeons do. And if I do a procedure in my office, and that means ophthalmologist, you name it, the global period where I cannot ever bill the patient until that global period is up. So if I did a head and neck cancer and took out someone's voice box for cancer, once I did that case and the patient came back for tracheostomy care, wound care, you name it, I can't bill the patient for 90 days after I've seen the patient. That's impossible.
My gosh.
You're talking about your supplies, your manpower.
Yeah.
You only get to bill once, and it's about maybe a couple $1,000 lucky if you make it for a laryngectomy, which is like a 6-hour case. So what they've done is they've taken on, and they're telling us what our value is. And the government's goal is to control costs. That's what they do. So all they have the power to ratchet down what we make as physicians, tell us what our value is and that we should like it. And under this new H.R. 2 that just passed, the supposed fix, that's now ingrained. So now it's based on value-based medicine. That's how they reimburse. They get to decide what your value is. They get to decide how much they pay you. And it's only going to become less as time goes on. And they're paying you for performance now. So if a patient has high blood pressure and they end up in the hospital, and because they had McDonald's, let's say, they had a crazy weekend, that's the doctor's fault because you didn't keep your patient out of the hospital. Patient has nothing to do with it now. Wow. It doesn't matter about the patient's individual choices. It's your fault. That's ridiculous.
It's amazing.
You want to practice like that? No, you wouldn't. And it's just a two-tier system now that's come online. Doctors who are employees of hospitals are stuck in the system. Doctors who take these insurances are stuck. And doctors who realize this is not going to get any better are opting out and doing something alternative, which is subscription-based medicine, fee-for-service, direct pay practice, where they cut the commercial insurance out, cut the government out, and just work directly with the patient. That's the future.
So in essence, as you wrote in your article, you're being asked to give up your Hippocratic Oath and to work against the interests of your patients as an agent of the government.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
The example I gave at the beginning, they want doctors to talk about global warming in their offices as a cause of health problems. I mean, this is what it's come to.
That's totally political.
They can't do it. But let me tell you, this is crazy. This is how crazy it's gotten. They will make sure that you do it because they'll make it a module in meaningful use. What that means is there's a whole section in your electronic medical record under Medicare guidelines. You have to ask a patient, how many people live with you? Have you ever tried to hurt yourself? Do you have guns in your home? I'm sure the next question will be, what's your opinion about global warming? Something crazy that they'll be able to capture the data, and you won't be paid unless you can't close the medical chart, actually, until you answer those questions. So this is what I mean by agents of the government, where you don't have an option. You can't close the chart. You can't finish the patient visit. You're stuck.
You know what's really interesting about all this? To me, and that's why you struck a chord when you wrote the Doctor's State of Independence. We're talking again with Dr. Elaina George, the author of that article. To me, it is important for the doctor to be independent, but a lot of doctors, as you mentioned in your opening paragraph here, you said they joined insurance panels, they signed contracts without reading them, they ended up going with the big companies and so forth. They kind of signed away a lot of their independence, and yet you say the independence is the very thing that you can use right now for leverage. Talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, the independent doctor is I guess to distill this down, the quality of healthcare is leaving the standard state of medicine. If you have insurance and you carry an insurance card, you are now in a position of getting substandard care, but paying more for it. And so there's now the parallel system is where the quality is being driven to. Innovation is going there. If I tell you this, you probably wouldn't believe this, but it's cheaper to see me, for me to send you to a CT scan for your sinuses, to get blood work done where you pay out of your own pocket, than it is for me to send you to these places, you using your insurance card. It's a totally manufactured, artificially high-cost system that we're dealing with. And now the Supreme Court has empowered it further. Now it's actually ingrained this now. And insurance companies, the hospitals know this. That's why their stock prices went up. They can put in, they're actually asking now for more premiums, 40% increase for some Blue Cross Blue Shield, 50%. And now they're joining together to become larger. Aetna just bought Humana. So now that system is now growing towards too big to fail, where the government is subsidizing it.
And one asks, how's the regular citizen going to pay for this as well as the doctor?
Thank you.
Hey, I want to take a quick break. I'm going to come right back with you. Let's talk about where, how do you leverage this then into something better and getting back to the doctor-patient relationship, because that ultimately, I think, is where most of us want to go. We're talking again with Dr. Elaina George, an otolaryngologist, and she's the author of a great piece called The Doctor's State of Independence that I just had a chance to read this morning, and it's all here on The Gary Sutton Show. She'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. Dr. Elaina George is with us, the author of The Doctor's State of Independence. So what's the answer? I've talked to other doctors before about concierge medicine, and yet you kind of have to think the government's going to slam down on that when they get a chance to do so, because that's not approved necessarily right now. So where do you go with this, where you get back to the doctor-patient relationship, Dr. George?
I think first, one avenue is to work within the health care bill itself, the law. There's something called medical cost sharing, which is allowed and written into the Affordable Care Act. And that started off as a small group of churches who decided to self-fund their own members. And that's morphed into a nationwide companies that you don't have to belong to a church. You don't have to belong to any denomination. You just have to believe in, you want to control your own health. You want to believe in liberty and independence. And the example of that would be Liberty Health Share.
Right.
That is, I believe so strongly in it that I joined as a member, and I actually have now covered my employees under it because I couldn't afford to cover them under the commercial insurance. They were paying too much out of pocket. Now we're all completely covered, and I mean covered. So for $199, the most expensive policy for someone over 30 is $199 a month. And for that, the total out-of-pocket for the entire year is $500. And I'm covered now for up to $1 million per occurrence per year. And the beauty is there's no panel. I can go to any doctor for real who I want to go to. I can go to any hospital I need to go to. If I ever get into any horrible situation, I'm covered up to $1 million per occurrence per year. So this is not only covering your general, your wellness, it's covering if something awful happens to you. And then it goes outside the box to cover chiropractic, holistic, pharmacy, dental, and vision. So I don't have to worry anymore about being a victim in the Obamacare system. And I took it one step further for me and my employees. I added AFLAC, which is like a supplemental policy that now will pay us if we have a heart attack, we get a $250,000 check. No questions asked, so we can take care of our business. And that's the power. You have to control your own purse strings if you expect to get quality health care. Whoever controls that owns you. And why shouldn't it be yourself? And why shouldn't it be me as a physician? That's what I'm saying.
I've talked with other doctors before. You may know Dr. James Pinkney or know of him, and we were talking about the diamond physicians and the idea that you'd pay a certain amount a month for care, and he made kind of the same points that doctors can provide a great care for you at a much reduced cost, but you have to kind of eliminate that whole middleman of the insurance company so much right now, and that's really where the problem gets in. And now doctors can spend time with their patients and do the right thing and have regular checkups and not have to worry about, all the other regulations that are out there for them.
Not only the regulations, privacy.
Yeah.
The privacy of the patient has been just hammered under the system. You don't have it anymore. If a doctor writes a prescription, the insurance companies, the pharmacy sends a list out to the insurance companies. Why do you think sometimes you get emails in your inbox that kind of are tailored to your medical condition? Because it's not private anymore. Now, this is where you can get your privacy back. I spend 40 minutes on a new patient visit. If I had, sold out and gone to a hospital setting, I'd be spending 7 minutes on average with my patient.
Exactly.
And if someone tells me they don't have enough money to see me, I will cut them a deal. I will have a sliding scale. I will barter with them. That's the power that I have because I control my own bottom line. And I have a subscription version of my practice where people pay $50 a month, and that covers any ENT thing I need to do in my office, hearing tests, regular visits, sinus, scopes.
Wow.
Anything that I can control in my own little world, that's part of the $50. And they get a discount if I have to leave my office to do surgery. That's what doctors are doing all over the country, in Florida, in Oklahoma. Surgery Center of Oklahoma, great example. If you go on their website, it lists all of their prices from the time you go in to the time you're discharged. And they've put so much pressure on the market that they are in that the hospitals have had to drop their prices to match them. That's awesome. That's free market. That's how it's supposed to work. I better be good, otherwise you won't come see me.
And that brings it back to competition. It brings it back to you get the best doctors out there practicing medicine. You get a doctor-patient relationship. You get the real costs of what it's going to take to produce or to do these services. That to me was what we're supposed to be shooting for. What is so hard for these politicians? I played golf with a doctor one day, one of the best surgeons here in our York area. And I asked him, I said, why aren't you guys making up the Affordable Care Act? Why aren't you guys in there? He said, because we're never asked. He said, we're never asked.
He's absolutely on point. If you see who came into that little forum, there were no doctors, no practicing independent doctors in that forum. They might ask an academic doctor at some point, but they're not tied to real-world medicine. They get a salary, they're in an ivory tower somewhere, and they have no idea what it really takes to practice medicine. The reality is we've had to hold our prices, or we've had our prices depressed while the cost of doing business has gone up. Malpractice rates have gone up. Labor has gone up. For keeping our offices open, the equipment maintenance has gone up. Yet we're supposed to do more with less and like it. And still be told that we're making too much. I think they would like us to do it for free. I love myself, and I love my patients. Nobody gets to value me. I get to value myself. And that's how I see it. And my patients deserve better than for some government or commercial insurance to tell them you're not sick enough to get the care you need. You know, you didn't go through a whole year of antibiotics, so we can just cut to the chase and fix the problem immediately. That's the problem here. You have somebody deciding your value as a doctor and a patient, and they're designed to keep the money with them. They don't want to spend the money. Listen, Obamacare now has become a huge HMO. We have something called an accountable care organization, which is now part of the Obamacare system after this last H.R. 2 passed, the Doctor Fix. And what that means is doctors, hospitals, and a whole pod of healthcare providers are given a certain amount of money per year, and they're supposed to deliver their care. We're using that one pot of money. At the end of the year, that's the profit that they make. So imagine they're now going to have a pressure to not admit you, not to have you come to the office, do everything they can by phone, because that's how they make their profit. You have to deny care to make a profit.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's part of the law. That's where we're going. That's where we are. Let me see. We're there. But patients don't know it yet.
You mentioned, and we're right at the end, and I apologize. I'm fascinated by your article. I'm fascinated by what you have to say. I hope we can do this again. But if people want to go check this out, libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare, all one word, .org. We're also going to put this interview up for tomorrow on Facebook.com/910WSBA. I think it's an important interview to hear as we continue to hear about alternatives here and getting back to making your own health care choices. Dr. George, excellent article, excellent conversation today. Please keep up the good work, and thank you for standing up for independence and maybe getting it done right where we get the choice back to the doctors and to the patients. That's where it really belongs.
Absolutely, and let your listeners know they can follow me on Medicine on Call. I have a radio show once a week on Wednesday mornings, 9 to 10. So I'd love to expand what we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And if you know what you don't know, you can help yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's so important. Dr. George, thank you so much for being with us here this morning on the Gary Sutton Show.
My pleasure.
Truly an honor. Dr. Elaina George. And, Google it. Check out the Doctor's State of Independence. Also check out libertyhealthshare.org. Really interesting. Another concept. We talked about the diamond physicians. Here's another one on how you can maybe go around Obamacare by playing within Obamacare. Yeah, it's provided.